Coming up this morning, people in Floyd County are concerned about an annexation proposal by the city of Martin. And tax officials think there is a possibility that tax refunds may be delayed if there is another government shutdown. And Virginia Governor Ralph Northam sits down with CBS's Gayle King for his first television interview since a blackface scandal broke last week.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning. It is 6 o'clock on Tuesday, February the 12th. I'm Will Puckett. Thank you, as always, for tuning in to Mountain News This Morning. It's a soggy one for what seems like the 1 billionth day in a row here in Eastern Kentucky, but hey, I think it'd be better than just being dry as can be. So let's head on over to Brandon, who's going to give you a check at the weather this morning. And Brandon, we're still in a severe weather alert day. Flooding is still a very real possibility, especially as rain continues to work its way in at 6 o'clock this morning.
That's right. And we've got a brief break for now, but it's going to pick back up again as we head into the daytime hours today. So let's take a look at the cameras, kind of show you what you're looking at as you head out the door this morning. US 119 on top of Whitesburg Pine Mountain. Been raining quite a bit overnight, so wet roads, maybe some ponding water in spots. So be careful of that. Over Whitesburg, staying in Letcher County this morning, you see the wet roads there, but no major visibility issues. That's some good news. Out toward Lake Cumberland, already some bands of heavier showers starting to roll back in there, especially out toward Columbia this morning, up toward Lexington. See a lot of those green flood advisory boxes and flood warnings popping up, and a lot of the rivers looking pretty close to that minor flood stage as we head into the coming days there between tomorrow and on Thursday as those waters kind of settle there a little bit. Out to the west, we still see more rain and heavy rain at that coming toward our region later today. Temperatures close to 60 already in Monticello as that warm air trying to surge in. Jacksboro up to 50 now. Ashland, the only spot in the 40s. So between iced coffee and a normal day on the coffee meter, but as you head out the door, umbrella is going to be your best friend because we're going to see those rain chances all day long. Flooding still a possibility, and we pick up a wind advisory later today. I'll talk more about all of that coming up here in just a few minutes. Will?
All righty, Brandon, thank you. Well, as rain fell yesterday, some were reminded of flooding across eastern Kentucky exactly 1 year ago. Homes, businesses, and roads were damaged. The flooding was so bad that a presidential emergency was declared in 22 eastern Kentucky counties. WYMT's Macy Marie went to Harlan County, where officials say they are still cleaning up after the mess it left behind.
This was the scene in Harlan County a year ago.
One of the worst floods that we had had since the '77 flood.
Water from nearby streams and rivers spilled into houses.
When we had the flood last year, it came up over the bank, it got in my daughter's house.
And it was not just homes that took a toll from the flooding. Many roads tore apart.
We had roads that had to be closed. We had numerous mudslide issues that impacted both state and county roads.
Farmers say the heavy rain cost them crops, too.
The garden, it didn't do too good last year.
A year later, and some problems did not wash away. Crews still work on areas throughout the county.
And in fact, we are still in the process of making repairs to areas that were impacted by that flood.
And bad weather kept hitting, with flooding again in June and plenty of rainfall throughout the year.
The weather, obviously, between February and this February has complicated our ability to get as many things done as we wanted to have gotten done.
Officials working on repairs as quickly as they can and hoping for drier days. In Harlan County, Macy Marie, WYMT Mountain News.
Now, County Judge Executive Dan Mosley says Harlan County is no stranger to flooding. Just last week, he had to declare a state of emergency for the county after a mudslide along Kentucky 72. Now, just a reminder this morning, you can always find the latest weather conditions on the WYMT weather app. See live radar and zoom into your own neighborhood. Also learn about warnings and advisories that are issued for your area. You can find it at the Apple and Google Play stores. Well, many people in Floyd County are concerned about an annexation proposal by the city of Martin and how it could affect people living in areas the city is trying to take. There are 3 phases of the annexation proposal. City officials want to take control of the state roads surrounding Martin. The city council will then annex the businesses along those roads. And finally, city officials will then try to annex the communities along the state roads. This would add multiple new taxes to people in those areas, including occupational, insurance, city property, and business license taxes.
That little word tax usually excites everybody, and of course I don't want to put a burden on anybody. We pay enough tax anyway, and but we're just trying to better things.
Now, the proposal would also annex 4 county schools, including the new Floyd Central School, that would add new taxes to all of their employees. We have not been able to reach the mayor for comment. Well, in other council news, in Somerset, the city council there voted down a fairness ordinance at a meeting last night. The measure was nixed by a 10-to-1 vote. Amanda Bullock was the only yes. One member was absent. With tax season here, many people who file may start noticing their returns are smaller this year. Due to the new tax law signed at the end of 2017, withholdings are less throughout the year. That means your return will be smaller since you have received more money over the course of the year. Now, what about the question of a possible government shutdown?
Based upon past experience talking with IRS agents, they start planning because they're considered non-essential government employees. And I would think that there's the potential to have some delay in refunds.
Now, Holliday says some employees may be considered essential employees like they were in the last shutdown and have to work without pay, but people should still file regardless. As we learned earlier this morning, that may no longer be an issue as it seems they have come to at least a verbal agreement. Well, Virginia's lieutenant governor says he is confident in the truth after a second woman comes forward with an accusation of sexual assault. Now, as for Virginia Governor Ralph Northam, he insists he will not step down over a blackface scandal concerning a racist photo printed in his medical school yearbook. Northam apologized, but later said it was not him in the image. Northam says he believes there is a reason the photo surfaced all these years later.
And what do you think that reason is?
That we are in a position to learn. I will focus on race and equity. That's something that for the next 3 years is going to be my commitment to Virginia.
Now, as for Virginia's Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax, plans to begin impeachment proceedings against him have been put on hold even as he faces a second accusation of sexual assault. In the latest claim, Meredith Watson alleges Fairfax raped her in 2000 when they were college students at Duke University. Well, Representative Ilhan Omar is apologizing for her anti-Semitic statements. The Democratic Congresswoman faced condemnation after suggesting money fuels Republicans' support for Israel. Now Omar is apologizing, writing, "Anti-Semitism is real, and I am grateful for Jewish allies and colleagues who are educating me on the painful history of anti-Semitic tropes." House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer does not believe there should be any further disciplinary action taken.
It's time that we all move on from this, we unite, and we focus on how we can build a better country. She's a friend. I take her at her word.
Now, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi released a statement Monday from Democratic House leadership, reading in part, Congresswoman Omar's use of anti-Semitic tropes and prejudicial accusations about Israel's supporters is deeply offensive. Well, a bipartisan bridge is built toward the border barrier. Congressional negotiators say they have come to an agreement that could avert another government shutdown. John Lawrence has more.
Days before the deadline for another partial government shutdown, a tentative deal.
We reached an agreement in principle between us on the Homeland Security and the other 6 bills.
The 4 lead lawmakers didn't give specifics on the settlement, but did admit some flexibility was needed from both parties.
There's not a single one of us is going to get every single thing we want, but nobody does. But we're going to get what is best for the United States.
President Trump was given the update shortly before taking the stage at a rally Monday night in Texas.
They said that progress is being made with this committee. Just so you know, we're building the wall anyway. They say that progress...
A source says the deal includes nearly $1.4 billion for physical barriers covering about 55 miles. A White House official says aides are digesting the details with nothing set in stone. But some people see this as a step in the right direction.
It is very encouraging news for the country that they appear to be in agreement in principle.
Others don't.
His call for a concrete wall or anything that resembles that should never happen both because it's a waste of money, it'll be ineffective, and because the minute we do that, we're going to fundamentally change the notion of what America is.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
Well, the run for Kentucky governor is setting up to be one to remember. While current Governor Matt Bevin has 2 opponents in the primary, he will likely face an even tougher opponent in the general election. A possible one is Attorney General Andy Beshear, son of former Kentucky Governor Steve Beshear. Beshear stopped by for an Issues and Answers with Steve Hensley. While on the show, he talked about his record against Governor Bevin.
I'm the only candidate in this race that has proven that he can not only go up against Matt Bevin, but has beaten him repeatedly, time after time.
Now you can watch the full Issues and Answers on our website, WYMT.com.
Well, the forecast this morning again continues to be soggy, and more bands of heavy rain are starting to move into the region. Let's take a look at live pinpoint Doppler radar, and you can see as we take a little brief tour here, we're going to continue to watch some heavier bands of rain out toward Lake Cumberland and down toward the I-75 corridor. We zoom in a little closer there, coming through Columbia and Burkesville out toward just west of our counties. A little bit of heavier bands of rain, so just kind of keep that in mind this morning, and we're going to continue to track that east as we head through the daytime hours. Lots of things to talk about. We'll talk about those in the full forecast here in just a few minutes.
Definitely people are going to want to pay attention. Well, thank you for joining Mountain News this morning. More news is on the way. That news consists of the Pacific Northwest is expecting 3 to 9 inches of snow. And all over the world, people are getting creative and finding ways to have fun in the snow.